What if I told you the secret to the fudgiest, most melt-in-your-mouth brownies isn't flour, cocoa, or oil? It's Nutella. My two favorite sweet treats are a warm, homemade, chewy chocolate chip cookie and an ooey gooey fudgy brownie. But I have a confession to make. As a home baker, my favorite home brownies are actually from a box. I can't believe I'm admitting this. The reason being, it's because box brownies provide that fudgy, melt-in-your-mouth gooiness that's hard to recreate from scratch. Unfortunately, the ingredient list? There are some that I find a bit questionable or mysterious. For over 30 years now, I've tried dozens and dozens of different homemade brownie recipes, searching for that perfect texture and flavor of a box mix. And finally, it happened. The secret ingredient? Nutella, mixed with melted butter and both brown sugar and granulated sugar. Quite different from a box mix, but oh, so tasty and fudgy. Let's check it out. For the ingredients, you'll need butter, dark brown sugar, granulated sugar, vanilla extract or vanilla sugar, 2 eggs, Nutella, all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, salt if using unsalted butter, and chocolate chips or a chopped chocolate bar. Begin by preheating the oven at 350 degrees. Line an 8x8, a 9x9, or 9x13-inch baking pan with parchment paper. I'm using a 9x9. And all I did was cut the parchment paper to fit the pan and then just cut the corners and folded them over so that I have a flush paper with my pan. You could trim the corners if you want of the flaps. The smaller the pan, the thicker the brownie, but still just as fudgy. And then set the pan aside. In a medium bowl, you're going to pour in 1/2 cup or 1 stick, which is the same as 8 tablespoons or 115 grams of melted butter. I just put the butter in the microwave for about 20 seconds. Add 1/2 cup of packed dark brown sugar, which is the same as 100 grams. The molasses in the brown sugar provides a deeper flavor profile to the brownies than just regular sugar, and it helps to maintain fudginess. Then we're going to add 1/4 cup, which is 50 grams of granulated sugar. There's not a lot of granulated sugar here, but the purpose of it is to give the top crust of the brownies that signature flake that only granulated sugar can do. This is also where you want to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm adding a package of vanilla sugar. It just adds a small amount of extra sugar, but you can decrease the regular sugar if you're going to be adding vanilla sugar, but I did not decrease the sugar in this recipe. And you just want to whisk until the mixture looks glossy, which is about 30 to 60 seconds. We're going to crack and add in 2 large eggs. Even with the second egg, you're still going to get a very rich and fudgy brownie. And you're going to whisk again until the eggs are broken up and until the mixture is smooth. Now for our secret ingredient, Nutella. You're going to add 1 cup, which is 280 grams of Nutella. This is the ingredient that creates and maintains the brownie's fudginess, even as the brownies sit for days on the counter. Now just whisk this in until smooth. The Nutella has been mixed in well. Just looks like a big bowl of Nutella now. Ooh, yummy. Now for the dry ingredients. In a separate small bowl, you're going to add 3/4 cup, which is 95 grams of all-purpose flour. And we're using flour in this recipe to provide structure for the brownies. We're going to add 2 tablespoons, which is 1/8 cup or 15 grams of cocoa powder. It's not a lot of cocoa powder, but it's enough to add chocolate depth since Nutella really isn't very chocolatey. If you're using unsalted butter, go ahead and add 1/2 teaspoon here, which is 3 grams. I'm using salted butter, so I'm not going to add any more salt to my recipe, but this is where you would add it if you're using it. Now just whisk the dry ingredients until everything is mixed up well and your mixture is homogenized. Add your flour cocoa mixture to your Nutella mixture, the dry to the wet. And then just fold in the dry mixture until no streaks remain. Okay, let's add our final ingredient, which is more chocolate. Add 1/2 cup, which is 80 grams of chocolate chips or chopped chocolate, which is what I'm using here. And just gently fold it in. The chunks of chocolate just add a little bit more of that chocolatey flavor to it, and it provides little pockets of rich chocolate that you might not expect. particularly if you're using your own chopped chocolate instead of a chip. So that's good enough. So now you're going to pour or scoop your batter into your prepared pan. If you're using an 8x8 inch pan, bake 40 to 50 minutes, but start checking at 40. If you're using a 9x9, bake 35 to 45 minutes, but start checking at 35. If you're using a 9x13 inch pan, bake 20 to 25 minutes. Again, check starting at 20. The biggest tip I can give you is the brownies are done. When the edges are set, there is a flaky crust on top all over. The center has puffed up and is starting to crack in the top. Our brownies are hot out of the oven. As good as they look, we need to let them cool for at least 30 to 45 minutes before slicing because they are really gooey and soft right now. You could totally make these a couple of days ahead of time and just leave them uncut on the counter, but covered once they've cooled. They become fudgier as they sit. So you'll notice they've puffed up at the top. They started to already sink, causing that crackle at the top, which is signature of granulated sugar in a brownie. In general, you don't need to test the brownies with a toothpick, but I will show you that as long as it's not covered in chocolate, the end of your toothpick, then that means that they're done. If they're covered in chocolate, that's likely the batter, and it still means the brownies are moist and too wet in the center, so just leave them in for another few minutes. But these brownies look done and cooked. They've started to pull away from the edges. That's another sign that they're done. So now we just need to let them cool. Since our brownies have cooled, let's cut into them. Since we baked them in parchment paper, they can easily be lifted up and placed on a cutting board so that you could cut them. If you don't really care about cutting them, just leave them in the pan and don't even use parchment paper. Just grease your pan and bake your brownies in the pan. Since we used parchment paper, the parchment paper comes off of the brownies, just like so. You can cut these to any size. This batch will make 9 brownies. So I'll have 2 cuts that direction and then 2 cuts the opposite direction. Now these are fudgy brownies, so they're going to be a little on the sticky side. It's a little easier to get the brownies off the parchment paper by using a spatula. And notice they came right off the paper, no really residue left. Take a look at how gooey these are. You can see some of the chocolate bits that we put in there as well. Okay, now if you plan on decorating the tops, you might place them on a plate or cutting board at first, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to place them separately on the board. I'm going to decorate them, and then I'm going to put them on a serving platter to give away. You could also give these away as gifts. They came pretty cleanly off the paper. Since the holidays, I plan on decorating my brownies to represent the season. So I have placed them with space between them so that I can decorate them individually and then transfer them to a pretty platter to serve. So for the holidays, you could totally use a cookie cutter and cut these into specific shapes like Christmas trees, stockings, snowflakes, or whatever. I'm going to leave mine in squares, and I'm going to add a simple white chocolate glaze to the tops. Right now I have some white chocolate that I've melted in the microwave, and I'm just going to take my spoon and then just very gently just add drizzle to the tops. This just adds a little bit of color and a visual texture. If you wanted to, you could add food coloring to the chocolate for the season. And this is rustic, so you don't need to worry about these being pretty or perfect. And while the white chocolate is still wet, I'm going to just add a dusting of powdered sugar for a little bit of that snowy look. You could add some white sanding sugar or some edible glitter, but the powdered sugar will stick to the chocolate as well as the other decor that you choose to use. So we're going to let the chocolate harden. It'll take only about 10 minutes, and then you can serve them or package them to give away as gifts. Once the chocolate has solidified and hardened a bit, you can go ahead and place them on a serving platter or just dig into it and put it on a plate for yourself. I like how when we drizzled the chocolate over the tops, it oozed down on the sides. So when you separate the brownies, instead of decorating them in one piece, when you separate them, then you can actually cater them and make them look individually decorated. So that adds a nice touch to them. The white chocolate drizzle and powdered sugar adds color and texture, kind of pretty for the season. They are soft and far from being cakey. Let's tear into this one. Wow, look at that. It's so gooey and it pulls apart. Take a look at the gooiness, and that is due to the butter and the Nutella. Can't wait to take a bite of these. Let's take a bite. Oh my goodness. I must be in heaven. These are so gooey, chewy, fudgy, chocolatey. Yeah, that's all I got. Since Nutella isn't super chocolatey, I totally think the extra cocoa powder fills any chocolate void. Well, and along with the chocolate chips, of course, we added. The brown sugar is not detectable, but it does add to the richness, depth, and moistness to these brownies. Overall, this is a phenomenal recipe, if I can say that. I crave these things and no longer have desire for a boxed mix. You can totally make and decorate these brownies a day or two ahead of time. Just store them at room temperature covered for several days. You can serve them at a potluck, to guests, as a snack, or wrap and give them away as gifts during the holidays. They really do make a heavenly treat. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, make a batch of heavenly, ooey gooey fudgy brownies and go bake the world.